Yes, so hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Foresight and Scenario Planning for Sustainable Innovation Roadmap. My name is Serene, and I'll be your host for today. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available for all participants today. So in today's webinar, our CEO of NineSigma, Aki Suwa, will share more about the most effective strategic innovation methods and tools through Foresight activities. And he will talk about ways to explore building open innovation capabilities by integrating both internal and external perspective, but most importantly, also how to discover, how scenario planning can lead to robust decision-making for future opportunities. Yeah, can you please, Aki, could you just move on with the slides?
Hello, everyone. My name is Aki Suwa, and I'm the CEO of NineSigma Holdings and the chairman of NineSigma North America. Today, as Serene mentioned, I'd like to introduce Foresight, how Foresight impact the business innovation roadmap. But first step is I'd like to briefly introduce NineSigma's open innovation platforms and partnership, and then move on to the main topic. Okay, so first, NineSigma enables you to explore new scientific, commercial, and technology space, build new ecosystem of partners, and develop new business opportunities. The reason why we have been able to do that, we have a lot of rich experiences. We have connected to more than 80,000 partners from startups, SMEs, academias, for over 2,000 clients. We have reached out more than 4 million contacts in the global B2B technology and academia communities. And we have managed more than 10,000 projects in all industries, such as chemistry, digital, energy, automotive, engineering, healthcare, pretty much all industries. And we have many approaches to innovation. We have done projects to accelerate your innovation. We have done projects to shape your sustainable future. We have helped discovering new business opportunities. We have helped extending your capabilities. But today's main focus, we certainly have many experience in exploring new technology spaces by performing foresight analysis and scenario planning to anticipate the future trend and emerging technology landscape to make the strategic decision and identify new opportunities. And we have done that kind of project through partnership to drive your innovation strategy with the custom programs and the dedicated NineSigma teams. And to do so, we have many resources and tools at your services. And certainly, NineSigma is known for a global network, as I mentioned, of 4 million scientists and engineers. And this is a platform called NineSight. And we heavily use it for open innovation scouting, managed innovation portals, and also prize-based innovation grant challenges. And we also have what we call Open Innovation Council. And this is a recognized quick survey services, consists of a global expert community of 20,000 active managers. And we use this platform often to find out the market needs, do the market needs survey and try to find the new business opportunities and marketing testing. But certainly, we use that also for today's purpose. Use them to input the new information for foresights and trend researches. And not the least, we do have a many in-house research team of PhD level scientists covering various technology domains based in Europe, US, and Japan, and India. Okay, but definitely today's main focus is foresight. So I'd like to explain this Open Innovation Council a bit more in detail. NineSigma's Open Innovation Council Network, OIC network, it is a unique global network carefully balanced and managed by NineSigma. And it has, as I mentioned, over 20,000 members. All of them are pretty much tech-savvy industry professionals from multinational corporations, SMEs, and startups who are passionate about technology, and they are ready to share their insights. Using this network, it is a managed service, but one of the strengths is that you can gather quick feedback from 30 to, we can easily gather 30 to 50 responses, if not 100, within a week or two. And this has a unique advantage over conventional interview-based technology expert network services. Expert technology network service is useful when you have the good hypothesis and you want to confirm it, because it takes a lot of effort to select the interviewers and takes a lot of effort to do the interviews. But when you are in a divergence phase to do this foresight, you may want to, interview or gather information from more people, and doing like interviews for 30, 50, 100 interviews is quite hard. But this, so actually, in order to reduce the bias, our platform's capability to gather many, many responses in a short time can be a very strong advantage. And as I mentioned, this could be used to get insights for future vision and technology trend to create an objective picture by gathering a lot of opinions. Okay. Not the least, Open Innovation Council is definitely an on-demand service. But since, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of rich experiences. We have done many, many projects over the last 23 years, and we have capitalized those scientific and technological knowledge into a database, structured database, so it could be leveraged to supplement such a platform. Also, we have mapped and have access to external multiple sources of data worldwide, patent database, startup database, scientific publication. And also, we have the program managers and global research team that have developed the in-house proprietary methods and digital tools to mine very large volume of data necessary to scan, analyze, to meet your needs, to supplement such a platform as well. Okay, now let me jump on to why foresights impact the business innovation roadmap. And before entering this topic, I'd like to briefly introduce that the NineSigma have the customer advisory board member who are our customers, frequently use our platform. And we recently have our customer advisory board meeting from the Japanese member. They have discussed the various innovation issues. So my introduction of this foresight, I like to introduce the foresight by quoting their opinions and ideas as well. So let me start. Why foresights impact business innovation roadmaps? First reason is because business environment is changing more rapidly, making it more difficult to predict the future. A research center general manager at Hitachi will say, things rarely go as predicted, and success is survival. The purpose of the foresight is to find as many potential opportunities as possible. If you find a few opportunities, then all of them could be wrong. Then you would, lose even the opportunity to participate in the future. So it's really important to find many opportunities in a very disruptive, changing environment. And also, the breadth and depth of technological evolution is growing so much. But at the same time, building a unique advantage in a business takes time, like technologies, new business model, etc. So the executive at Mitsui Chemical will say that we have to go beyond backcasting and have the science fiction mindset and create technologies of the future without being limited by the conventional wisdom in our industry. Because again, the breadth and depth of the technological breakthrough increases. So if you think if you are short-sighted, you are left behind. So in short, the conclusion that you definitely need to consider for a diverse future possibility to avoid facing disruptive changes unprepared. And also, you want to definitely leverage your own company's strengths as much as possible in a timely manner. Okay. So how do we do the forecast? I like to introduce 4 approaches and why each approach is needed and how to do it, and also how to leverage external intelligence and open innovation. First approach is called scenario planning. And let me quote the board of directors of Omron's comment. In an unpredictable environment, marketability of a future new business is not comprehensive. Therefore, we emphasize social impact rather than business scale. Actually, this is not only opinion of the Omron board of directors, but most of our customer advisory board's opinion that the social impact will be very important. But how do you determine the future social impact with accuracy? For example, to what extent will electrical vehicle EV spread and change the society? For example, recently, the enclosure of the rare earth affected the price of the battery. Would that hinder the spread of the EV? Then the potential market could change significantly. When and at what level will green energy, which has been undermined by wars, make a comeback? Depending on the prediction, the market potential could vary significantly. How do you deal with the multiple possibility in the future? You would definitely need to draw multiple scenarios and weigh their possibilities. And let me explain how to do it. First step is definitely to gather multifaceted intelligence to build multiple possible scenarios. And I wouldn't explain into too much detail, but this is a example case for the green energy. And you could have built a optimism scenario, like environmental neutral scenario, where the elimination of the dependence of petrochemical energy could occur as early as late 2020s. And definitely, the key technology could be a lot of green energy technologies. There's also a base scenario, which is a status quo, that the situation would continue as you could see from today. Maybe the elimination of the dependence on petrochemical energy will be in the range of 2030s. And there's also a scenario about political instability scenario, which has an increased chance of today's environment. And the elimination of the dependence on petrochemical energy could be delayed as late as 2040 or even 50s, which could be quite detrimental to environment, but that could also be possible. And the key point is that with a thorough investigation, most companies can create good possible scenarios, and the future will usually fall in between these scenarios. And it is less likely that you would entirely miss the scenarios for most cases. And second step is to calculate the probability of reaching each scenarios. And how do you do it? Based on the timing and probability and impact of key factors that affect the scenarios. For example, for the green energy, new technology breakthrough expected to occur in next 5 to 10 years or 10 to 20 years. You may want to identify such a technological breakthrough. And you want to think about the timing, probability, and impact. And if such a technology breakthrough really happens, then certainly the probability of the environmental neutral scenario, optimism scenario, would increase. But at the same time, for example, economical recession, which could occur cyclically, will happen in maybe, say, next 5-10 years. If this occurs in a very bad way, then certainly the probability of pessimism scenario could increase. And calculate list up all the very highly impacted key factors and calculate the probability of each scenario. And based on the probability of reaching each scenarios, you would like to allocate your resources for technology development in each scenarios. If you think that scenario one has a probability of 90%, you definitely pretty much want to bet all of them. But if there's like a, the probability has spread out, you may want to multi-bet as long as your resources allow. Sounds very simple. You may think that you do that calculation diligently, you may guess it right in the future. But the truth is that many companies miss their projection a lot. Why? For example, let me explain the recent example as I briefly mentioned. How many automotive OEMs predicted 3 years ago that the battery price would skyrocket due to rare earth enclosure among nations? According to my discussion with my friend in automotive industry, they started worrying about the price hikes maybe a year ago, a year and a half ago. And not too many of them had predicted this 3 years ago. But do all of them? So that would be but do all the players not predicted the price hike? Probably some of the battery manufacturers or trading companies who buy and sell rare earth. Some of them certainly have predicted such a price hike. So how do you avoid missing such a important factors? I'm sorry, maybe let me step back. The reason why many companies miss the projection is to miss out some of the very, very important factors that affect the scenarios. And the example I just mentioned is as an example. But for example, if you didn't think about, rare earth price hike, that would affect in the price hike in batteries 3 years ago. And if you do the scenario planning 3 years ago, you may have missed out the scenario big time. How do we avoid that? Just as the example I mentioned, you definitely want to ask other stakeholders who are in a related like electrical vehicle business, for example, about the factors they think important. And certainly, if you ask us NineSigma, we would use quick quality intelligence platform like OIC to ask other stakeholders. For example, in the case of EV, most automotive company would, ask the factors, potential factors within this automotive industry, OEMs and suppliers, and they would even go further to electrical utility companies, or maybe some of the battery companies as well. But they wouldn't go usually far to trading companies who would supply the rare earth. But if they could ask those rare earth companies what they think of the scenario, the important factors affecting the scenario, they could have come up with a potential risk of rare earth enclosure. As senior executives at the Kawasaki company said, the validity of future new business should be and could be verified by whether other stakeholders to be involved in a business to identify opportunities and risk in them. It is important to do this. Second approach is backcasting. You need to start developing the technology today to meet the requirement of the very disruptive future world. If you are late in participating, you have to buy the technology very expensively, or you may just simply lose the right to participate in a future competition. Most companies in NineSigma's customer advisory board members extensively use the backcasting to identify mid to long-term technology topics to prepare for the future. Let me explain how to do the backcasting. First step is to create a vision of what the world should be like in the future. The future could be 2030, 2040, or 2050, any time length in the future. And you may want to select some certain domain. This example, this company wants to identify what the human life would be like in 2050. They would say, for example, people would be doing more diverse working style, and people would have the more diverse way of living. Of course, definitely you want to elaborate in a much more detail. And in order to achieve such a vision, next step is to identify the functions that will enable those visions. For example, people would work more for self-realization. People would work in a more isolated remote environment, for example. Then the next step is to identify the technologies that will enable those functions. For example, people would, um, do the labors for more self-realization. Then maybe, there may be a technology that would sense this such a, and make such a self-realization, or, if they want to work more effectively in an isolation environment, then those, remote working technology could, develop, enhance much further. And once you identify such a future technology, you definitely want to link them with your current company strengths to see which domain that you want to participate and develop the technology for the future. Sounds very simple, but is it that easy? Actually, there's a huge challenge that many companies draw a very biased, self-serving future that miss many future opportunities. Many NineSigma's customer advisory board member admitted, we think we are backcasting, but then we realize that we have done is actually describing what we want to do in the future. So it's really, really objective. They lost the subjectivity. The chart below actually illustrates the typical biased case. This company have identified 5 opportunities in an area circled in yellow, in the area of lifestyle and living, use of skills, and hobbies and leisures mostly. And this is a domain closely related to their current technologies. So the fact is that they thought that they find the new opportunities, but those opportunities are not that new for them. If you take a look at the areas circled in red, community connections, brain, psychosomatic medicine. These are the areas they couldn't find any opportunities, and these are the areas they are not too familiar with. So this is the typical bias they face. How do you overcome that? If you seek many new ideas from other stakeholders related to these areas like community connections, brain, and psychosomatic medicine, and then they will provide you a lot of information. These actually the areas shown in light blue are the new information gathered by NineSigma's Open Innovation Council. And based on these information, actually our clients were able to find new opportunities, many of them in community connections, brain, and psychosomatic medicine. So in order to avoid the bias and missing opportunities, you definitely want to get the second opinion, third opinion from the other stakeholders working in the domain you are seeking to find the opportunities. This is a second example, backcasting. And third approach is called forecasting. And the reason why you want to do the forecasting, again, it takes time to nurture technologies as business advantages, even if you buy them. So you want to leverage the current technologies as much as possible. And well, the challenge is that many of our customer advisory board members said, if we envision the future too objectively, which you are supposed to do in a backcasting, the gap between the future and our own capability becomes too large. how can we expand our strengths and find a connection to what the future should be? How can we bridge the gap? That's what we call the forecasting. And the forecasting step is also simple. If once you identify the backcasted future opportunity, usually there's a huge gap between your technology. And it's not easy to fill the gap. And approach to how do you effectively fill the gap? First step is to group. You don't just consider your single technology, but you want to definitely group the multiple technologies, internal, external. Let me briefly mention about the example of an electrical device company. This company has a lot of technology related to magnetic sensors. And one technology is a sensor that can measure an angle of the object very, very precisely. But no matter, and they want to vision that those sensors could be used in, for example, future mobility or the future personalized healthcare. But when they appeal their technology to the automotive industry or the healthcare industry, those potential customers' reaction will be usually like, okay, but we don't need to measure the angle of the object that accurately. So I cannot really see the connection with your sensors. But fortunately, this company has other technology that would censor the change in the magnetic field in a very small change in the magnetic field. And maybe they have the other sensors that could measure the location, relative location of the object very accurately. By combining those capabilities, they can translate their strengths in a different manner rather than just saying we can measure the angle very accurately and we can measure the object's location very accurately. One could say we can measure a minor defect in a rotating object in a very precise manner. Once you translate into the functions and benefit of your technology, combined technology, all of a sudden, automotive industry people may say, okay, in the future automotive driving world, actually it is important to have the predictable maintenance of the automotive. So your technology could be used in such application. Or in the future of personalized healthcare, again, the maintenance of such a device could be very important. And this technology could be used for the future, predictive maintenance of such a devices. All of a sudden, there will be a connection. But at the same time, such a sensing device itself may not be enough. In order to do the predictive maintenance, you definitely want to have the data management. So if you could have a good data management, maybe the data management and data analysis technology, such as AI, the external technology, and by combining them to show what the sensor and data management, data analysis technology could be capable of, then automotive industry or the healthcare industry people would confirm that this could be the technology that could be used in the future if the technology would be improved further. So let me step back. So definitely you want to group multiple technology and translate them into functions and benefit, and then gather customer feedback on their needs and additional requests to how to improve them in the future. And we could use a platform again for these purposes. But there's a question remaining. Which technology should be grouped? Since you have a lot of technologies. Definitely the fourth approach I like to introduce is a technology portfolio management. Why technology portfolio management? And the fundamental question would be, how do we know if the technologies we invest are appropriate? Especially the world is changing significantly. And many of NineSigma customer advisory board members said, in a rapidly changing environment, there is a limit to the ability of management alone to evaluate a wide range of mid to long-term technologies and themes. So we actively incorporate evaluations from a third-party perspective, such as customers and collaborators. So how do we do leveraging customer perspective in a technology portfolio assessment? Let me explain the steps. First step is to evaluate technologies in terms of uniqueness, just as we have always done, using patent search and literature search to see if your technology has a unique advantages. But if we do the technology portfolio management with just uniqueness of technologies, actually you would waste a lot, because many companies develop the technology just because they need to develop the product. So there's many portion of the technologies, this is not purely unique. You just need to develop it, but the similar level of technology are available by your competitors as well. But if you get the second point, step number 2, if you could also evaluate the technology in terms of the value to customers, actually, you could also leverage such a technology which has a less uniqueness to become the competitive weapon for your future goals. And let me explain why and how to do it. Assuming that your technology X is not so unique, that the competitor A also can do the similar level of technology, but have the value to customers. And also, if you have the other technology Y, which can be done at the same level by the competitor company B. But if your company is the only company who do both X and Y, then if you can combine those technology X and technology Y and identify new functions, then your company could be the only one who could provide such a function. Therefore, there's a uniqueness to the technologies. And then also, those combined technology could very have a high potential of value to the customers. So you could use such a technology to realize the future in a forecasting approach. Also, you think that your technology has a good technological advantage, but certain technologies, you struggle to leverage them. Why? In most cases, those technologies have low value to customers. Then do you give up? Before you give up on such a technologies, you definitely want to find a new applications in your future focus area. Basically, you want to find a new application, in our case, using OIC to see, if there's any opportunities or not. Fortunately, if you could find the new opportunities, you can again promote such a technology from low value to high value. And if you couldn't find the new opportunities, then you could stop investing in such a technologies. Okay, great. Sounds very reasonable. But technology is not equal to customer value. How do you evaluate it? It really depends on the technologies. And if your technologies are used really close to the end product, then the approach we take is actually reverse engineering. Say certain products have many values, and certain value is most highly recognized by customers. Say in this case, value A, for example. Then definitely you want to reverse engineer to identify the functions, maybe alpha and gamma, that enables the value A. And then you want to identify the elemental technology A and B and C, that enables the function alpha and gamma. By that way, you can identify the elemental technologies that has high value to the customers, and also, there are, technologies that are less connected to the values. But not all technologies are easy to, reverse engineer. For example, the early stage technologies, which are not yet commercialized, you cannot really, identify the value because it's not commercialized. And also the material technology is too far from the product. So, reverse engineering is a bit meaningless. And also the processing technology will not appear as a function and benefit to the end product. So you cannot really identify by reverse engineering. How do we do that? How do we evaluate the value to the customers? Basically, similar approach to the combining forecasting. You would like to brainstorm and group many of your elemental technology to find as many differentiation functions. And once you identify the interesting differentiation functions, potential functions, you may want to combine the functions to identify the differentiation values. And usually, if you gather maybe 20, 30 potential elemental technologies, you may be able to find 5, 10, maybe 15 new values. Then you may want to use Open Innovation Council to broad, target customers, potential future customers, whether they want to use such a values. And if they were to use such a values, what kind of applications they would like to use. And in such application, they are likely to use other technology today. So what will be the advantage of your new value compared with the conventional technologies? Of course, there are application ideas, many application ideas, you may not have the competitive advantage, but some of the applications, you have the less substitutability, you have certain unique advantage and have the good marketing potential. Then again, you want to, backcast, reverse engineer to identify which technology such application would come from to identify the high value to customer, distinguish high value to customer technologies over not so high value to the customer technologies. It takes a lot of effort, but actually it's worth it to increase your weapon for the future, to bridge the future growth used for the forecasting. So I just explained the 4 approaches for the future foresights and how to do it and how to leverage external innovation. Why and how to leverage external innovation. So before moving on to key learnings and takeaway, I'd like to pause and ask for some questions if you have any questions now.
Yeah, thank you, Aki. Actually, one of the questions that I thought that would be interesting and that the people were curious was that how often do you recommend to run these scenario planning and foresight activities? So yeah, how would you respond to that? What would be kind of your answer to with what you have shared already?
Okay, definitely it really depends on the technology and depending on the changing environment. So if it is a material related environment, the things may not change that quickly. Then and it really depends on the industry. So if you are in a, for example, IT industry, the change goes occurs very quickly. So you may even want to do that, as frequent as like every year. But if you are in a heavier industry, things may not change that rapidly. Then you may want to, revise and do the scenario planning depending on your company's, mid-year, planning like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah,
definitely it takes some. So it takes some effort. So some companies, you don't do everything all at once. They will pick, the topic and rotate in every 3 to 5 years and do the scenario planning.
Yeah, thank you, Aki. And definitely, if anyone else has, more questions or any remarks, please feel free to send that in. And yeah, then I leave the floor to Aki to finish up with the key learnings and takeaways for now. Yeah.
Shall I continue?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So the key learnings. First important point, predicting the future is challenging. So definitely you want to employ scenario planning and backcasting to prepare for various outcomes. And when you do that, make sure to include external viewpoints, customers and also stakeholders to avoid missing the opportunities and mitigate risks. And second point, gaining a competitive edge through technology requires time. So you definitely want to maximize your company's strength with forecasting and technology portfolio management. And when you do that, definitely you want to combine your technologies, translating them into functions and values, and validating those values through customer feedbacks. And lastly, NineSigma has Open Innovation Council, OIC platforms that gathers quick quality intelligence from potential customers and stakeholders. It's very easy to use, so we recommend for you to use it. But we not only provide OIC platforms as itself, NineSigma definitely can provide a partnership support in all aspects of the above scenario planning, backcasting, forecasting, and technology portfolio management, especially if you are not familiar with doing those approaches, and also if you want to avoid the bias, we can help avoid that and to build the initial success. And we definitely we were capable of transferring necessary skills to you so that you could repeat such a successes in a different topics. So thank you very much for listening. And again, if you have any questions, you are welcome. And actually, there's a question.
Actually, there is one question, and it says that in an aviation industry, how can innovation take part from an educational institution? Will the same method apply for that? Yeah.
Maybe I'd like to ask the question to the question. Why do you struggle to extract or gather the intelligence and innovation from the educational industry institutions such as university? So I like to first understand. I'm sure that the same method should apply, but I like to before answer, providing a definite answer. It's university, okay. I would assume that in the aviation industry, you can also get a lot of insights from the education industry. Not the Foresight topic, but definitely we have done a lot of innovation challenge, grand challenge in, for example, NASA. And a lot of great creative insights are coming from universities as well as the industry as well. Oh, thank you very much. And how often? So there's another question on how often do we typically perform the forecasting analysis to the client? It really depends on the client. Some of the clients I just mentioned as an example, actually they come to us with quarterly with a different topic, and we have helped them almost 8 topics of forecasting, like backcasting support. Every 3 months we help them.
Yeah. I don't see any other questions. Yeah. So there are no
actually, there's another question.
Would
you recommend to multiple?
Yes. Would you recommend? Would you recommend to run multiple focused foresights on the same challenge in order not to be too divergent and gather better fitting opportunities?
Well, the same challenge. The same challenge. Well, actually, for same domain, you don't need to do the Well, I guess that your question would be multiple focus, meaning like use scenario planning, forecasting, backcasting, multiple methods. Then many companies actually employ, for example, backcasting and forecasting together, all together. Because if you just do backcasting all the way to technological topic, the gap between your technology and the required technology is too much. So definitely you want to combine backcasting and forecasting together to find the opportunity that is fair and but at the same time doable in the future. When you definitely want to employ combined scenario planning when the possible future could be very diverse. There are many diverse potential future, then you want to also employ the scenario planning. But at the same time, if the future could be very convergent, then you can skip and do the forecasting, for example.
Yeah, thank you, Aki. Are there? Yeah, there is another question.
Sure.
Maybe we can...
Imagining disruptive future requires strong creative skills. What a recommendation for the method people? Horizon. Yeah, okay, that's a good question. And the first approach is definitely leverage the people who have already done that exercise. Because, usually, your company have the, similar culture. So even, your company have the different people from the different division, you are already biased in a certain company culture. So you definitely want to reach out to different culture people. For example, I just mentioned about the Mitsui Chemical, science fiction oriented Foresight. They even access to science fiction writers and science fiction designers and brain scientists. So you definitely want to reach out to different type of people who usually you are not involved. So it could be you could say it's creative, but also definitely you want to have a different perspective. That is more important as well. And definitely we could, reach out to, different perspective, different stakeholder perspective through our Open Innovation Council platform.
Yeah. Yeah, there is another question as well. How one could estimate the probability of a future scenario occurrence? Okay. Yeah.
Good questions. Definitely. Well, no one knows for sure for the future. So definitely you want to have that collective intelligence rather than asking, few people. If you could ask in the order of 100 people, then you could better guess, whether, probability could be, 30%, 50%, and how long in the future. So we usually use collective intelligence of asking in the order of hundreds of people to better guess the timing and the probability of certain, for example, at what timing, say, well, I can't think of any good technologies in right now, but fusion, for example, fusion could, be in use. And you could ask, rather than, 3 to 5 so-called experts, if you could ask, people in a different related industry, 50 to 100 people, I think your guess, the probability of guessing it right increases.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, there are no more questions. It's clear.
Thank you.
Yes, so I don't see any other questions coming from participants at the moment. Yeah, please feel free if you have any more questions, please feel free. We have a couple more minutes. Otherwise, you can always come back to us.
Yes.
Yeah, then at this moment, if I don't see any other question that we can squeeze in, then I would say, yeah, thank you for the great presentation, Aki, and thank you for this great information and insights, and thank you for the participants today and also for the questions. Please feel free to reach out, and if you have any questions or any more notes or remarks, please, yeah, you can reach out to me directly through ebes@ninesigma.com or just contact the contact at NineSigma and we'll definitely get back to you. The webinar was recorded and I will send in all the, you will get a follow-up with all the materials for this. So at this moment, I would like to thank you, Aki, and thank you to all participants today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to hearing from you. Great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.